So, Richard, good to have you on the program about this. And as we mentioned, a lot of the media picked up this blog post that you wrote about this. What exactly did you see from the UN?
The UN were putting out a very strong statement yesterday saying that the criminalization of drugs, for people taking drugs, was both harmful and unnecessary, and has done an enormous amount of damage. Now, this is the very body, the UNDP, that has been in charge for the last 50 or 60 years of overseeing the criminalization of people on a worldwide basis. So, right. So it's a very powerful statement saying that drugs should be treated as a health problem. People who have drug problems should be able to come forward and be helped, and they should not be criminalized anymore. And that they say should apply to all drugs.
So to your understanding, they revealed this to you, to the BBC, and a few others, and they were supposed to unveil this report yesterday?
Yes. I mean, I did interviews with the BBC, with one or two other people that had been given this statement. And the report was meant to have been revealed in Malaysia at a big drug conference yesterday. It hasn't been, and the reason I'm going public is that I'm extremely worried, as are other people from the Global Drug Commission and other people who've been working in this area, that a country or two may be trying to suppress this report. When you have the most influential body at the UN coming out saying that drugs should be treated as a health problem, it's important they stick by it and that they're not influenced unduly by one or two individual countries, who disagree with them.
Am I close if I say that's the U.S.?
I'm not going to say, because I actually don't know which countries. We believe it's one country that's put an inordinate amount of pressure on them to stop this report coming out. But we've now just published the report on our website, so that it's there for anyone to see. And it's a very powerful, very sensible report. I mean, for instance, heroin. I mean, in countries where they treat heroin as a health issue and not a criminal issue, like Portugal and Germany, and they're getting on top of the problem, and they've reduced the amount of heroin addicts dramatically, and they've managed to stop the spread of HIV and hepatitis C and other illnesses. So we very much hope that the UN will be brave, that they'll get the report out today or tomorrow.
But you've released it. But Sir Richard,
and stick with what.
Did I just hear you say, though, that you've gone ahead and released it?
We have just posted it on my website, so that people can see what the UN think and what they believe. And if there's a country that's trying to suppress it, the report is there to see what the UN really think. And hopefully the UN will now stand by the report that they were meant to have put out yesterday.
So you've done that, though, without their permission?
I was never given it myself in confidence by them. I managed to get hold of the report, and I think it's very important that the world sees this report, because there are literally millions of people who get punished every year. They get criminal convictions. They end up in prison. In some countries, they get executed unnecessarily. And the UN have said very clearly that criminalization is harmful and it's unnecessary, and I think it's important that the world knows that's what they believe and that's what they wanted to put out. And if there's one country trying to suppress it, that country shouldn't be allowed to suppress it. The UN's an independent body that is there to benefit all of us.
What do you think is the economic impact of this type of report? I mean, what do you think could be not only the impact on drug policy around the world, but the economic impact as well if you turn from criminalizing drugs to treating it as a health issue?
Well, countries that treat it as a health issue get people off drugs and back as useful members of society again, and that's of benefits to the countries. Countries that don't lock up hundreds of thousands of people for taking drugs, like America does, again, those people will be useful members of society again, and paying their taxes and behaving as normal people. And there are enormous economic benefits, but the social benefits are gigantic as well. And when you've got a broken policy, if I had a broken business for 60 years, I would have closed it down 59 years ago. The war on drugs has gone on now for 60 years. Everybody knows it's broken. The UN is now the actual body that's there to monitor the war on drugs has now come out to say it's broken. It should be stopped, and the much more effective way of dealing with this is to treat it as a health problem and help people. If my brother or sister or my children had a drug problem, I would want them to be helped. I would not want them to be imprisoned.
And so, Richard, we were just showing, guys, let's bring it up again, your website, which you just mentioned that you've just put that out, where you note this is a change in drug policy. Okay, so do you believe, or have you heard from the UN at all that, about this move that you've made, and do you believe that is going to force their hand to put this report out in the next day or so?
We will have to see what happens, and we will have to see just how much pressure is being put on them by whom to stop it. And I think that's up to journalists out there to try to get to the bottom of what's going on. All I can say is that yesterday this report was going to come out. Yesterday the BBC were going to break this report. Myself and others did interviews with the BBC on an embargoed basis. Somebody somewhere has intervened to stop this report coming out, and that is dangerous and sad, and hopefully the UN will be able to stand up to whomever it is that's trying to put pressure on them.
And before we go, so Richard, why is this so important to you?
I'm part of something called the Global Commission, Drug Commission. We have 17 ex-presidents. We have Kofi Annan. I'm the only business person on it. We spent 5 years studying the war on drugs. I've done many reports, have been to many countries. We can see the misery the war on drugs has caused, and we can see the enlightened policy of some countries that are doing exactly what this report says that countries should do. I don't like the idea of seeing, literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives ruined every year unnecessarily. And therefore, if I'm in a position to do something about it, I will try to do something about it.
Okay, so Richard, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. So Richard Branson, Virgin Group founder, joining us from Necker Island on this report from the UN.